Good afternoon. How are you? It's a beautiful day out, a little chilly. Sun's out, not overcast. Very pleasant. I've tried to, in my own mind, as I'm sure you have, analyze the principal offenses against humankind, against our nation, by Republican leaders right down to the maggots on the street. And I suppose that what comes out as indicia of traitorism, sedition, is the violence, the lies, the violations of our law and Constitution. One of the things that jumps out is the recent attack on Paul Pelosi, the husband of the Speaker, third in line to be President of the United States, who herself was the subject of threats on January the 6th. And before then and now, there have been threats against members of Congress and their families who believe in the rule of law, who are against violence, and who point out, but not frequently enough for my money, the lies that are told to sustain the violence and to falsely justify the breaches of our laws and our Constitution. The attack in California at his residence at 2:30 in the morning has been described by some Republicans as, oh, these were just two friends having an argument, 182, 140 something, and it wasn't anything. Well, this guy came there looking for Nancy and cracked the skull of Paul and was arrested on various charges. Rightly so. What are we to do with this information? Well, first of all, Republican leaders like Governor Youngkin from Virginia, where I am, said, oh, we feel sorry about what happened to Paul Pelosi, and we hope we can send the Speaker on her way so she can go home soon. Double entendres can be funny, and they can be brutal, they can be inhumane, they can be out of place, but none of us should be surprised by it. I hear people still talking about, oh, we've got to talk to the Republicans. We have to change their mind. Forget that. It is plain and obvious that they are none of these things. That is, humane, courteous, lawful, constitutional. They don't care about the people. They care about taking the power. Our country has had fights over equality, and perhaps the one we think of most is the slavery in the South, in which the Democrats then occupied the place of offense, if you will. Offense at the original promise in our Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. It took a while to get the vote to women, and we still don't have an ERA. But such are the things in a nation that can't get away from its prejudice, from its hate, from its division over color. But there's a senator going back to the 1850s. His name was Charles Sumner, an impressive senator from Massachusetts. He was 6'2" or 6'4". He was a stirring orator, and he headed the forces to abolish slavery. He was an abolitionist, and he fought hard for it. And he stood in the chamber attacking those in the Democratic Party, Senator Stevens and others, who supported slavery. And around that time, there was the fight over Kansas, and there was the Lecompton, if I remember the name correctly, resolution. And the question was, would Kansas be slave or be free? And you can quite appreciate the fact that Sumner thought it should be free. And So into the chamber one day came Preston Brooks from South Carolina, and an associate of his from the Congress, Lawrence Keat. And these two men took it upon themselves to attack Charles Sumner. It was not the only attack of violence that happened on the Hill, but this was a special occasion. They brought down this man by caning him in the head. Did they break his skull, as was the case with Paul Pelosi? I don't know. But for the next 2 years, he couldn't appear in the Senate because of that assault. He instantly became a hero across America for his efforts. Kansas was declared to be a free state, not a slave state. And the Senate had an empty chair where Sumner had sitting in office. But what did the people in Massachusetts do? They kept open his seat until he could come back. So that seat was empty for the 2 years he was recovering. There's a testament to a public figure. And when Sumner came back, I think he served another 18 years. Do we have any heroes like that today? 2 men with a cane broke his skull. One 40-year-old man took on an 82-year-old man because he couldn't find Nancy at home because she was in Washington, D.C. doing her job. And this offending presence cracked Paul's skull, and he's been operated on. What will his recovery be like? We are in a dangerous time when we don't prosecute those who have put our entire government at risk, put our entire culture at risk, put peace at risk, made an example to others of the most ugly sort. And still, the Republicans persist. Not just Youngkin from Virginia, but other public figures, Republicans elsewhere, making a joke of this assault on the husband of a person third in line to be president. It's not acceptable. And yet, what's going to happen? There are so many things in our society, led by Republicans, who just wring their hands or say it's political to discuss the issue. I'm thinking of the children who die because we won't do anything about guns. I'm thinking of the women who are beside themselves, being told that their bodies are going to be subject to white male elected officials. I think of people doing everything they can to pad the ballot boxes for Republicans and discourage and deter other citizens from voting. And so, like in 2020, we have to drag ourselves over glass if we haven't voted absentee and vote that day, and stand up to those who will try to intimidate on the day of the election, because that's not American, that's third world. We are in a precarious position, and we're going to learn something about our neighbors and our nation on November the 8th, because we're going to find out if they are buying the violence, they are buying the lies. They're content with the violations of the law. You've heard me talk about Thomas More saying, if we rip down all the laws, can you stand in the wind that will blow? The wind has been blowing. Other elected representatives have been threatened. Only the other day, the governor of Michigan was proven correct when they convicted 3 men who wanted to kidnap her, just as on January the 6th, others wanted to kidnap, at the very least, Nancy Pelosi. So we have our work cut out for us, and there are some elected representatives who are helping us, and some prominent former presidents who are out there working for us. And we have to shoulder our responsibility, getting whomever we can to vote, voting ourselves. There's a man that I see on these trails. He's a Marine, and we take different cycles. So we we pass each other going in different directions when we're on the trail. And he said that he was cautiously optimistic. And I told him there were years ago when the polls said the Republicans were favored, and this is in Virginia, and we took over the state legislature to the surprise of everyone. I thought then it was the people reacting against the way Republicans did business in the political sphere. I'm hoping that that same effect will be present here, for if it's not, all of the magic of political involvement will find it very difficult to close the gap between the autocracy they want and the democracy we seek to preserve and protect. So here I am out in my my walkway of trees, and it looks absolutely gorgeous today. And until tomorrow, I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.